What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Malachi of Scowl. Thank you so much for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man, anytime. So this new album, How Flowers Grow, is absolutely epic, just truly brutal and pulverizing from start to finish. Being that you released the EP in 2019, was that maybe like a good preview or sort of like a good sort of first taste of what we're gonna get from a full length Scowl album in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've grown a lot as far as like musicianship, I think, in the LP. Um, so the you can see growth from like the demo to the EP to the LP. Just purely because I was new at guitar, so I think I've just been experimenting more and more and like messing around and learning new tricks and stuff. So I think it's very close though, as like the EP has a similar feel for sure. But yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Being that this was the sort of like debut full length album and you obviously want to hit the ground running and start things off on a good note, was there sort of like a preconceived idea of how you wanted How Flowers Grow to sound in a way, or was there a lot of like improvising involved or experimentation like you said?
Um, it just kind of came naturally. Like we just wrote everything and it seemed to flow together. Originally, what had happened is we had this idea. There was like a chunk of songs I had written already, and then COVID hit, so we just wrote the LP. So we decided like instead of doing another EP, we might as well, if we have this downtime, we should do an LP. And yeah, it was. I mean, the style that we have, we just want to stick to. We like it. It's just very straightforward, hardcore, and we enjoy doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a cliche question to ask, like what are your influences and whatnot, but like hardcore is such like a vast term nowadays because you could be referring to Sick of It All or Agnostic Front, or you could be referring to modern bands like Harm's Way or Vane or Knocked Loose or something like that. In terms of like hardcore influences, because without a doubt I would call Scala a hardcore band, no questions asked. But like in terms of like your hardcore influences, is there a specific influence the band has?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to a lot of '80s hardcore, like Negative Approach and Deep Wound and like Impact Unit, and then Slapshot and those sorts of bands are all like bands that have like really influenced me. And I listened to a lot of Boy, so like some of that kind of ties into it at times. And then I like bands that are just like Sheer Terror was a band that I listened to a lot. Um, and I like bands like Madball and that sort of thing as well. Agnostic Front's a huge influence to me, and so I listen to a lot of that. Blood for Blood, all this like just straightforward, gnarly hardcore bands are kind of what I listen to, and so that style just resonates with me a lot. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was at that controversial Madball show in Tompkins Square Park.
yeah, that one was the. It was pretty. People were going either way about it, so it's like people were pissed, people were stoked. I think people are just like we're ready for shows to come back, and it was funny because shortly after there was like multiple other shows like that that happened. So there was a lot of outdoor shows
Yeah,
popping up like very quickly afterwards.
yeah, that was one of the craziest musical experiences I've ever seen in my life. Regardless of how you feel about it, it was history. So it was.
Yeah, I mean, um, we played a show like that where it was outdoor. We played the RBS show and it was outdoor and it was a few thousand people showed up and it was nuts. So the outdoor shows they're cool. Like I really like them. I think they're really fun. That the video I saw of that show is all of them looked really cool and it looked like the people were having a lot of fun. So
Definitely. In terms of like the music that you have, because I've always thought that lyricism plays an important, just as much of an important role into hardcore music as the riffs and the rhythm and pretty much everything else. And I do find that the lyrics in songs such as "Dead to Me" or even "Fuck Around" or "Four Walls" are like very relatable and very intriguing. Is there ever a time where maybe a lyrical idea or a lyrical concept that your vocalist would come up could influence your musicianship in a way?
Yeah, yeah. If Kat has an idea and tells me, then like I'm gonna work off of it. So I think that for this album in particular, all the songs were written um, away from like lyrical influence, but some of the songs like had, I guess, the feel, just kind of, she would listen to them and then the lyrics would come out, you know. So I have there's a couple times where like we've written stuff after the song was written to add in to make the lyrics like fit better, and Cat's had some ideas like for the feel of it, like the song. So that does come into play for sure.
And being that all of your songs are very, very short song length, which is a breath of fresh air as somebody who listens to a lot of progressive music with 11.5 minute long songs. But like, how, at what point, how do you know when you've reached the level of satisfaction to the point where the song is finished?
Um, I think it's just if we're playing it and it sounds and it feels like it's done, then it's done. Like we don't want the song to overstay its welcome. So if it's like we're trying not to add like filler or things that like sometimes we write a song and we're like it's too short, let's add another measure in, or let's add this part in here. So it's just kind of what feels right. Some songs I don't even realize they're as short as they are. Like they're just kind of like a burst, and then you're like, oh, cool. So, um, but it seems to work. I mean, for that style and all the like music I'm influenced by, they're not really long songs. Like no one's they're not really long at all.
Yeah, I mean, every hardcore show I've been to, whenever a band is finished, I'm like, wait, already? Like, and I think
Yeah.
that goes to show, like, what hardcore's all about. It's like, you better be there, motherfucker, or you're gonna miss something. So,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I've always liked. I mean, short sets. If sets are super long, you could kind of get if you unless you're like really stoked. Like I've seen bands that play for like a good amount of time, and I don't lose interest. But you have to be one of those bands that's like either legendary or just like outright huge, like the headliner. I feel like if we're not headlining a show, then like anything over 20 minutes is too long.
yeah.
Like people are there, like they're stoked, but and like usually the set goes well. But if you're not, you don't want to overstay your welcome. You don't want to like just like sit there and drag it out. You want to show what you got and then leave people wanting to see it again instead of being like, oh, I stood there for so long. Like started out good, but then it got stagnant.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's like, it's like what hardcore has to do is it has to kick your ass, but make the ass you kicked come back for more.
Yeah, like you have to. I've seen a lot of bands where like people are like, "What? They only played for like 15 minutes," but they're always gonna go back because they want to see it again. Like they didn't like they didn't push the time limit on it, and usually that's some of the best sets I've ever seen in my life from bands are only like 15 to 20 minutes long.
Yeah,
Um, but I've also seen like I like the Descendants. I watched the Descendants. They'll play for like over an hour, and it's great.
yeah.
Like, and I'm enjoying it the whole time. Or like Suicidal or something. Bands like that, when they play for it, they have so many hits that it's like I'm stoked to sit there, or not sit. I'm usually like having fun, but I'm stoked to be a part of that for like that extended period of time because it's something that I want to see for that long.
Yeah, and like there are some bands like I once saw Opeth play like a 3.5 hour long set, which they're not hardcore by any stretch of the means, but like
Yeah.
it really depends. I feel like with hardcore in general, it has to be brutal and it has to be quick and to the point, just like the lyricism and everything else.
Yeah, that's kind of the hardcore. That's just like the style. Same with like grow up into punk. Like some of my favorite songs are like 30 seconds long. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
I think it's just that style for sure.
yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Scowl is originating from the West Coast, right? Are you all based out in the West
Yeah,
Coast?
yeah, we're all from Santa Cruz or San Jose, which are like the cities next to each other.
Yeah.
So San Jose is only like 30 minutes from here, and at one point everyone lived in Santa Cruz, and then a couple of like Bailey and Cole live in San Jose, Kat and I still live in Santa Cruz, and the scenes are really intertwined. So it's like that's why you see like 40831 because it's the two area codes connected, and a lot of the bands here share members from San Jose or Santa Cruz.
You just answered the question before I even asked it, and that was how the scene was in sort of like the San Jose, Santa Cruz. Because I've interviewed a lot of like hardcore bands from Southern California, and it almost seems like I'm from New York City, so I'm kind of like feeling a little we got a competition on our hands. But the hardcore scene in Southern California. I mean, is it fair to say though, like given a little hardcore history, Southern California kind of started a little bit after New York, right?
Um, I'm not sure because certain bands, if I could remember, like remembering correctly here, you had bands like Bad Religion. Um, yeah, you had not Bad Religion. Bad Brains. You had Bad Brains and Cro-Mags and all those bands in New York, and they were like early hardcore bands. And then you had bands like Black Flag in Southern California, um, and you had bands. Who else? There was a lot of bands like Minutemen and all that, like the Southern California area, and so it's. I know one of the earliest punk bands was like the Ramones in New York, and they had like CBGB, and that was like a breeding ground for hardcore and punk out there. But I do know there was a lot of early punk and hardcore bands in Southern California as well. So I'm not sure if it just kind of all started at the same time, but I'm pretty sure it was close to one another. And there was a big connection too. Like I know those people were really close to one another.
Yeah, unlike the rap world, the East Coast West Coast actually had an essence of unity more so than a competition.
Yeah, they're very much like well, they all stayed on each other's floors and stuff from what I've read or seen or heard about. Like you talk to an older guy, they all know each other. So like um they like I don't know, I think they were always like kind of working off each other.
Yeah, and the scene now seems to be thriving a lot as well. Like, I mean, when it came to Southern California music, my first take of it was, and obviously apples and oranges, but like Avenged Sevenfold and As I Lay Dying and Atreyu and a lot of those metalcore bands in a way. But it almost seemed like it's evolved, and there's always a great essence of unity, right?
Yeah, I mean, Southern California has like some of the best shows ever and like some of the best bands too. And I think that's just LA and like that area in general is like it's where movies are and it's like a massive place for like all these uh, there's so many like famous venues and like so many stories about stuff that happened there. The Bay Area is a little we have a like pretty long history as well and like some pretty legendary venues. I think it's more spread out as far as like LA is so central and has all these like surrounding kind of cities that are like have had really great artists come out of them as well. The Bay is kind of similar in that way where you have like bands that come from Oakland and then San Francisco, then San Jose, and then you have like people that are it's so close to Sacramento that there's a big connection there. So like from like all the way up from Chico to like Santa Cruz in this Northern California plot, and then some inward in like Modesto and Stockton and all those areas. All the bands know each other and kind of feed off of each other, like as far as like they all work together and like play shows together and everything. I'd say LA is so big though, like it's massive. It's like New York. Like there's bands that probably never even heard of each other that are in the same scene, but like up here, it's you kind of know who everyone is.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the big difference. I think LA is bigger, like size wise, because like there have been days where like I would see a show in Queens and then get on the train, see a show in Brooklyn, and then end it with a show in Manhattan, all within like the same day. You can't do that shit in LA. Like like everything seems to be an hour and a half away from each other.
You know what? I have seen shows like that though, where like you'll see there's so much going on that there's bands that could play a show earlier in the day and then have another show with a completely separate crowd at night somewhere else with like a different lineup, and like the people will like won't even like flinch at it. Like it's pretty big. It's just that I don't live down there, so I wouldn't know. I don't think they have like a public transportation system like New York does, where there's like a subway that could get you to all these spots really
Well,
fast.
you guys have
But
earthquakes to deal with. I think that's why.
huh?
I think it's because you guys have earthquakes to deal with, right?
Yeah, I mean up here there's like the BART. You can take the BART to like different spots. So you can take it from like the city to Oakland or like from there to San Jose or something like that. So, but there's not everything starts around the same time. So it's not like you unless there was like a matinee show and you can make it to like a show starting at like 8 p.m., then that'd be the only one.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is when it comes to hardcore, it's, hardcore music, especially for Scowl, it has to be aggressive, it has to be brutal, and, especially within the shows with crowd interaction and participation and whatnot. Do you put a similar energy into like a live presence as you do in your songwriting? Because I feel like with this Scowl, with How Flowers Grow, it really captures the aggression of what makes hardcore in general. That's why I really wanted to interview you guys. And like, but do you almost feel like that there's a similar energy that you put into songwriting as you do when you're playing live?
Yeah, 100%. Like everything we do, we're trying to give it like our all. So when we play it live, we want people to feel like we want people to have fun, and we want to have fun, and we want to be kind of unleash all that, and like it's an escape for us. I mean, it's a way for us to like kind of deal with a lot of things we've all gone through. So it's we definitely want that. Like we want people to feel that same energy when they listen to it in their car as if like they're watching us at a show, and like we want them to go off. So like we want them to feel that whenever they listen to us.
Yeah. Do you almost feel like you have to practice like the stage presence or crowd interaction? Like,
No, so like I feed off like if the crowd's going nuts, like it makes me want to go nuts. If the crowd's kind of like just standing there watching, I'll still move around and stuff, but it's not as like it's not as fun. When people are going off, you get excited. It like makes you smile, and like so you start smiling, jumping around even more because it's just like you get hyped. So I feed off that. I know a lot of the rest of the band does, and like no matter what, we're gonna give it our all and like do is make sure it's like fun for people to watch because sometimes people don't. I've played shows where like the environment wasn't like a real moshy environment, so people liked it. They still like headbanged and like watched and like were stoked on it. But it's not the same as like when people are flipping off the stage into each other too. So I played both. I'm always going to try to give it my all and like make sure that people are enjoying the show. But I do enjoy it. If there's more energy, sometimes you just like kind of move with it. So
Yeah, definitely. I love. I have a friend who's in a hardcore band, and like he sometimes likes to make up stage banter when he's practicing that, just so he could like. I remember he was like, "This song's about Twinkies. Let's go."
yeah, it's like I wish we probably maybe we'd be better at it if we practiced the stage banner. It's kind of just like us going for it.
Yeah, but hey, you know what? I think if hardcore musicians said everything that's on their mind, I don't think it would be a hardcore show. I think it would be just straight up war. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we try to let the music do the most of the talking and like keep as little banter as possible and just like set up and go.
definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome conversation about hardcore. It's my favorite topic to nerd about. Is there just anything else with Scowl that you'd like to promote with the release of How Flowers Grow in terms of live shows? Can you please bring Scowl to New York one day? We would love to have you here.
Yeah, we are coming. We're coming to New York on. We'll be there. I'll actually check the date right now. Um, we will be there. Right, we're doing a West Coast tour with No Warning, Comeback Kid, and Zulu, and then we're gonna leave straight from the West Coast and fly into New York, and it's gonna be on the 18th at Market Hotel in Brooklyn.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, for the children on the East Coast. It's gonna be Zabulba, Section 8, Hangman, Soul Blind, and Stabbed,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yes, I did see that show. Oh,
yeah.
well, I'm coming out to that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so we'll be at that for sure. I've never been to New York, so I'm really excited. I've never been to the East Coast, minus a layover once, and that's it. Like, so I'm just very excited to play a few shows out there because we'll be playing Philly and DC as well when we're out there, and then coming back, and we're going we got a bunch of stuff going out to Europe in January with Comeback Kid and Devil with Me and Be Well, and yeah, we're stoked. So we're excited to get the album out. Hopefully, people like it and people see that. I don't know, like you said, we try to put everything we have into it. So I'm excited for it. I'm stoked to get it out and just play some shows and play the new songs. We haven't been able to play all the new songs because we wanted to hold them back until the album's actually out so people know what they are.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Scowl. Be sure to check out How Flowers Grow. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.